Hello guys, and welcome to my presentation about addiction and the effects of sleep deprivation, and all things sleep and why we need it and what happens when we don't get enough. There are many different types of addictions. There are gambling addictions, social media addictions, some of you guys probably have that, unhealthy internet usage, like watching too much porn, or just traditional substance abuse like drugs and alcohol. So what causes addiction? Well, it's the release of dopamine in your brain. All of these, gambling, social media addiction, unhealthy internet usage, and traditional substance abuses are only some of the different types of addictions, and they all release and cause happiness, aka the release of dopamine in your brain. Now, what is dopamine's role in addiction? Dopamine gives the feelings of satisfaction and pleasure, and also causes cravings or the intense wanting. You know, like when you want a lot of sugar, so you go and eat a brownie. That's basically the same thing. It's the intense wanting of something, and typically you give in to that pressure. There are three main parts of drug addiction. There's the physical dependence aspect, the psychological dependence aspect, and tolerance. Physical dependence are changes in bodily function, and they manifest through withdrawal symptoms. Examples of withdrawal symptoms are shaking, appetite changes, irritability, nausea, vomiting, or even paranoia. Note, withdrawal occurs if a drug is discontinued or enough time has passed since the last high. Typically, withdrawal symptoms only show up after you're already dependent on the drug. So if you use a drug once, like weed, or you drink one night, you're not going to be dependent, or at least I hope not. Then there's psychological dependence. And since drugs are often used for stress alleviation and to solve problems, which they really won't, drugs will not solve your problems, they will create a false sense of happiness, and you'll become psychologically dependent on them to make you happy and to solve all the problems up in your head, which it really won't. Then there's tolerance. As you use the drug for longer periods of time, you will be required to use more and more of the drug to receive the same high that you experienced at the beginning of use. Not really a lot of fun, and kind of a waste of money if you ask me. Liking versus wanting. There's actually a very clear difference, and a very clear and distinct difference between these two, especially when it comes to addiction, any type of addiction. Addiction is about wanting above all else, not liking, not how it makes you feel, just about wanting. You may want to drink alcohol because you are dependent, you want to drink it, but the taste might be horrible, or being drunk makes you sad or sick. So you may not like the taste or effects, but you may want to drink alcohol. Very different. In a study, when dopamine was suppressed in patients, pleasure ratings were actually recorded as just as high as if their dopamine was not suppressed. So even if they didn't want the drugs, they still liked the drugs at the same amount. It is very difficult to quit addictive substances because even thinking about a drug boosts dopamine. And remember, dopamine causes that craving feeling. This highlights the complexity of human desires. A person may want something they do not enjoy, and they may enjoy something they do not want. Now we're going on to sleep and sleep deprivation. Functions of sleep. There are many different functions of sleep. It helps your body develop, grow, and repair. It regulates and balances hormones, and it also resets the brain's learning capacity. Sleep rebound is a term that when you are missing a night's sleep, or you didn't get enough sleep, or you have been deprived of sleep for several nights, the next time you fall asleep, you will fall asleep much faster, so your body can hope that it can catch up on the amount of sleep that it needs. Sleep is a state where your body remains still, your sensory awareness diminishes, and this allows the essential bodily processes to occur undisturbed, aka developing, regulating, and resetting your brain's learning capacity. Sleep, memory, and learning. Memory and learning has to do with all the neurons firing in your brain. That's all it is. Your neurons, when you're awake, your neurons detect a regular input that they can decode into meaningful information, and then your neurons fire back in response. The synapses, the little things that hold together the neurons, are transmitting the inputs, and they must be strengthened for the neurons to fire. During sleep, the more active synapses are reinforced, while the less active ones get weaker, hence forgetting. While you sleep, your brain activates the recent information during your last wake and also past information encoded in your long-term memory, and it does this by prioritizing based on relevance and importance. Your neurons fire with greater intensity in response to shocking or emotional stimuli. This is why it's hard to forget traumatizing experiences, since they are etched into your long-term memory. The hippocampus and its role in learning and memory. Now, the role of the hippocampus is mainly to reinforce information. That's its primary job, and that is what it is really good at. It also stores information and encodes it into long-term memory. However, the hippocampus is not involved in the initial learning process. So, it reinforces, but does not help us learn it. However, the hippocampus may actually have the ability to temporarily retain newly acquired information until sleep can consolidate it into the long-term memory. Now, there are two different types of memories: declarative memories and procedural memories. Declarative memories are memories such as facts, data, and events. The first night of sleep is critical for declarative memories, as these are very arbitrary, and your hippocampus needs the time to begin the process of encoding the information into long-term memory. Because when it's not in long-term memory, if you go to bed and your hippocampus isn't functioning right, you're just going to forget it the next day. However, procedural memories are the ability to recall how to do things, like a task that has to be done in a certain order. It is important to know that sleep deprivation has not been seen to have an impact on recollection when assessing long-term memory. So that means if you're missing a couple nights of sleep, but you know your stuff and it's been in your brain for a while, there should not be a problem accessing the information in your long-term memory. There are many effects of sleep deprivation, and I split them up into memory and body related, and emotion, decision making, and relationship effects. So we're going to start off with memory and body related. When you're sleep deprived, you're not going to be able to retain the newly learned information that you encountered during the day. It's just not really possible. You have less capacity for new information before you become overwhelmed, before your brain starts to shut down. It's just really not fun. And when you don't get enough sleep, the hippocampus does not have enough time to consolidate information into long-term memory, which means you're not going to remember what you learned during the day, even if you had a full night of sleep before. Sleep deprivation may also cause an imbalance of hormones and a lack of development, and also limited bodily damage repair. Now, for the emotion side, sleep deprivation critically impairs your decision-making skills, which is why you shouldn't be driving when you're tired. Research has concluded that sleep deprivation has been linked to impulsive behaviors, increased aggression, and poor problem-solving ability. Sleep deprivation has also been linked to hostile emotions towards others, which is why it is always important to get a good night's sleep so you are not impacting the people around you. It's very easy to get into fights with loved ones when you are tired. Research has also shown that sleep deprivation has caused reduced willingness to resolve conflicts. That is a big no-no. Sleep deprivation has also been shown to make people more selfish, antagonistic, and uncooperative. Conflict strategies and its effect on sleep. So there are two main conflict strategies. There's destructive conflict strategies and constructive conflict strategies. Destructive conflict strategies negatively impact both partners' sleep quality over time. It's kind of like never-ending cycle where if you don't get enough sleep, you're not going to be able to work out the problems, and that also negatively impacts your sleep, your future sleep. Now, constructive conflict strategies increase your sleep duration and sleep quality according to research. So it is always important to talk rationally and calmly and make sure that you solve all your problems before going to bed. In conclusion, I feel like I am very well-rounded in the topics of addiction and the effects of sleep and sleep deprivation. I feel like I learned and retained much more information by doing my own research, reading the articles, taking notes, and actually writing a long paper rather than just reading a textbook. The writing of these essays for me felt fluid, and it only took around 10 hours each, which was much faster than I was actually expecting. And the reason I chose these two topics were because they're important topics in my life, and I really wanted to learn more about them, and it's something I feel passionate about.